disrupted.
America that I fought for.
Weird thing to happen. So we mentioned earlier in the broadcast why it seems like the Biden family is pressuring and abusing Joe Biden to continue running for president. And I mentioned about the fact that this seems more of a selfish move on behalf of the Biden family, like Jill Biden, Hunter Biden, to pursue their father/husband to continue on his treacherous, insane, diabolical train wreck disaster of presidency. And they're still continuing to lie to themselves. They're still in psychotic mode. They're still in this cult behavior of, continuously lying, not only to the general public, but themselves, including the mainstream media, to say he's still sharp as a whip. And we know that's a complete fabricated lie because we're able to see with our eyes and ears. But to remind people just how crazy this is, Matt Orfalea always puts these little things together, and I just want to show, I'm going to show a second of it. I don't want to show the whole thing because we got it relates to the article that we're about to show you here, but remind people about this.
So would you like to say a couple words?
Am I supposed to speak now, or is Karen supposed to speak? I don't know. I don't want to get in trouble here. Oh, it's me. Okay. Well, there's that great philosopher, and he talked about Jill puts notes up on my mirror when she wants me to, where I shave, to get messages across to me. And what presidents say matter.
The former vice president suggests the black community lacks diversity of thought.
We choose truth over facts.
Biden complimented the town before incorrectly identifying which state he was speaking in.
Joe Biden forgot he was in a video live stream and abruptly walked off camera.
So, again, you can watch the full thing, Matt Orfalea, on his YouTube and other means of social media. I just remind people, that was going on even before Joe Biden became president, before people saw it obviously up close to the rest of the nation. And they still want him to be president, including his own family that are pressuring him to do this. Because as this article reports, gathered at Camp David, Biden's family tells him to stay in the race and keep fighting. Which I reiterate, this is a form of elder abuse. Because clearly this man is not well. He is not mentally, physically in a health state of matter that should even consider being in a form of leadership or a role of responsibility as highly regarded as the president of the United States. A man who can't physically get himself off a stage and cannot complete a sentence, to nowhere be in any sort of situation to be held responsible and have the leadership capabilities to run a country. But his family is saying, do it anyway. Why? Because they're all a bunch of narcissists. They all get kickbacks. They all get cushy jobs. They all get the lovely benefits and perks of Weekend at Bernie's Joe Biden strolling him around the White House. So it goes on to say President Joe Biden's family used a Sunday gathering at Camp David to urge him to stay in the race and keep fighting despite his dreadful debate performance. And some members criticized how his staff prepared him for the face-off, according to 4 people familiar with the discussions. Biden spent the day questioning with First Lady Jill Biden, his children and grandchildren. It was previously scheduled trip to the presidential retreat in Maryland for a photo shoot with Annie Leibovitz for the upcoming Democratic National Convention. But the gathering was also an exercise in trying to figure out how to quell Democratic anxiety that has exploded following Thursday's performance. While his family was aware of how poorly he performed against Donald Trump, they also continue to think he's the best person to beat the Republican presumptive nominee. the mental gymnastics, the folding themselves in the pretzel, the embarrassment that they're creating themselves to push this forward is just unbelievable. They also believe he is capable of doing the job of president for another 4 years, according to the people who are not authorized to speak publicly about internal discussions and spoke to the Associated Press on condition of anonymity. Among the most vocal, Jill Biden and son Hunter, whom the president has long gone to carousel and advice, both believe the president shouldn't bow out when he's done and believe that he can come back for what seems as a subpar performance. The family questioned how he was prepared for the debate by staff and wondered if they could have done something better, the people said. So, they're angry at the staffers. They're angry at the staffers why Joe Biden is not looking better, more publicly available to the people when he's completely lost his mind. And of course, the rest of the family doesn't care because Jill Biden gets to be first lady and continues to cut back to that because she's a complete narcissist herself and wants them to continue on. And Hunter Biden, well, if daddy's president, then I could still be the dipshit son, the crack addict, get away with crimes, and my father will pardon me. It's all good for the general good of the Biden family, but the rest of the country, you'll have to suffer. Biden's campaign has spent the days since the debate where he appeared raspy, trailed off, and at times gave convoluted answers, working to keep donors and surrogates on board as Democrats increasingly questioned whether he should stay in the race. At this point in the delegate process, Biden would likely have to decide to drop out for there to be a new nominee. And the people he listens to the most in the world, his wife and son, are telling him to stay. I wonder why that is. I wonder why all the strategists, even the people that work deeply in the deep state that want Joe Biden to continue on, to be their puppet, why they wouldn't want him to continue on, but the wife and son are desperately clinging on. I wonder why that is. Even before the debate, the age of the 81-year-old Democratic president had been a liability with voters, and the primetime face-off appeared and reinforced the public's deep-seated concerns before perhaps the largest audience it will have in the 4 months until Election Day. CNN said more than 51 million people watched the debate. While the president was huddled with his family, predominant Democrats rallied to deliver a public show of support for his campaign on Sunday. I do not believe that Joe Biden has a problem leading for the next 4 years, said one close ally, Democratic Representative James Clyburn of South Carolina. Joe Biden should continue to run on his record. Senator Rachel Warnock, a Georgia Democrat, and Raphael Warnock, a Georgia Democrat and Baptist minister, said there's been more than a few Sundays when I wished I had preached a better sermon relating the experience to Biden's debate performance. Again, the point of the matter is that it's not like he's doing a bad open mic night. He's not doing a theatrical performance. This is him running the country. And it's not just one night. It's a bad 4 years. And people need to understand, do you want that 4 years to continue on? Or do we have to actually consider the fact, look at reality as what it is, and maybe look for viable options? But after the sermon was over, it was my job to embody the message, to show up for people that I served. And that's what Joe Biden's been doing his entire life. You mean whoring out to the donor class, which is what he said, entering politics? It was an echo of the message from other supporters that Biden had a bad debate, but a lifetime of good governance. Warnock, like Clyburn and others, pivoted to Trump's many falsehoods during the debate, laps that Biden and the debate moderators often failed to fact-check from the stage, including about the January 6, 2021 attack on the Capitol by Trump supporters, immigration, and the outcome of the 2020 election. Of course, they had to circle back to the classic hits. Well, the Capitol was an attack, and Trump's going to deport a lot of people, and he refused to give up the 2020 election. That's why he's still president? Or did he give to Joe Biden peacefully, eventually? Yes, he did. But they still have to circle back, because that's all they have. That's all they have, is to say that Trump is a liar on those big three things, even though Trump is not. They have proven that every single time. Every single time they have proven that Trump did not lie or caused a mass influx of people storming and attacking the Capitol. We have shown how that Capitol attack was preempted by FBI agents posing as civilians to do a posed insurrection. That was all a complete setup done by federal agents. And they're trying to use that as a pivotal point to attack Trump with, to say that he's a mastermind liar and a criminal and a felon and all this stuff. But Joe Biden is able to excuse himself with all of his criminal past and all of his family's crimes. Whenever his mouth was moving, he was lying, Warnock said of Trump. But concern simmered among some Democrats that Biden's campaign and the Democratic National Committee were not taking seriously enough the impact of the debate. Former Iowa Senator Tom Harkin, who served more than 2 decades with Biden in the Senate, called the debate a disaster from which Biden cannot recover. Harkin suggests that the Democratic senators in pivotal races and maybe all incumbent Democratic senators should pen a letter to Biden asking him to release his delegates and step aside so that the convention can choose a new candidate. According to an email to supporters that was obtained by the Associated Press, it was the first reference in the Iowa journalist Julie Gamick's column on Saturday, Iowa Potluck. This is a privileged time and is more important than the ego or desires of Joe Biden to stay as president, Harkin continued. Jamie Raskin described very honest, serious, and rigorous conversations taking place at every level of the party. About what to do. But DNC Chairman Jamie Harrison and Biden's campaign manager, Chavez Rodriguez, held a Saturday afternoon call with dozens of committee members across the country, a group of some of the most influential members of the party, where they offered a rosy assessment of the path forward and gave no opportunity for others on the call to respond with questions. Multiple committee members on the call, most granted anonymity to talk about the private discussion, described feeling that like they were being asked to ignore a serious predicament. There were a number of things that could have been said in addressing the situation, but we did not get to that. We were being gaslit, said Joe Sazlar, an elected DNC member from Colorado who was on the call. So it looks like there's some infighting between whether or not Joe Biden has the capabilities to even remain within the party. And I mean, you look at, we showed the polls earlier that majority of Americans are all ingredients, whether it be Democrats, Republicans, independents, non-voters, black, white, Hispanic, all people are looking at this train wreck. They're reminded of all the other train wrecks that Joe Biden's been in and caused and devastation to the rest of the country. And they're saying enough is enough. I think this debate finally woken people who for a long time were trying to hide this under the bus, trying to, again, do this simple toe tap to the side and twist themselves in a pretzel to defend it. But I think this debate finally wakened people to see that Joe Biden clearly is not well. This is not a fit person. And the fact that Hunter Biden and Jill Biden, the wife and son of this man, clearly pushing him to continue on being president is for their own benefits. It's not to protect him. It's not to help him in any means, because if they really cared about the health of Joe Biden, as I've always said, if they really truly cared about the health and safety of Joe Biden, if they truly loved this man, they would be immediately taken out of office. They would take him out of politics. They would send him back to his home in Delaware, maybe get a bunch of nurses to look after him, and make sure he lives and sustains his last few years on this planet. That would be the most healthiest thing you can do for a loved one. Not push them to the brink of no return as responsible for the entire country. I would not do that to any of my elderly grandparents. I would not do that to anyone that's suffering through dementia or any sort of mental illness that's clearly obvious to people. This is absolute abuse of using Joe Biden. And this is the abuse of not only Jill Biden and Hunter Biden, but the entire deep state. That's why he's in politics. That's why they previously got him to be president. A man who did not even get a single % in polling during the primaries in 2020. They forcibly shoved Joe Biden down our throats because it was the ultimate puppet for them to mastermindly control people, thinking that Joe Biden was successfully running the country when really the country has always been run by the deep state. It's always been run by the intelligence agencies. It's run by corporations. It's run by lobby firms, investment banks. All the people that are unelected behind closed doors have the ultimate control, the ultimate hand on how this country gets run. And Joe Biden is their little puppet, their weekend at Bernie's. Like, they can pull around and disguise people to think he's fit enough to be president. And that, to me, is abuse. This is me trying to be sympathetic to Joe Biden. Because even Joe Biden at his mental good, when he had a brain, was evil. Joe Biden, when he was starting politics, throughout his political career, when he was actually cognitive enough, was an evil psychopath. He was a warmonger. He was a complete liar. He was he plagiarized. He ripped off Irish politicians. He ripped off college. He's a complete pathological, sinister liar. That was at his best. And now I'm saying, for the benefit of Biden, this is actually trying to defend him, that he needs to step down, that he needs to look after himself, his health, his family's health, and stop this nonsense. But you have sinister people within the family. You have sinister people in the deep state that are so invested into themselves. They're so selfish. They're so completely narcissistic that they have lied to themselves, twist themselves in a pretzel, and push this to the ultimate extreme. And that is devastating. That's devastating. Like, I've seen, W5 episodes of elder abuse. How, family members take advantage of their elderly grandparents. How companies scam elders into, for money purposes. How is this okay? How can anyone look at this and think that this is normal? Think that this is okay? That you clearly have someone who is in dire need of real health concern, dire need of resting and caring for them, for their health and safety. Why would you put them in a position of whole responsibility, not just for one thing, but the entire nation? 330 million people, plus the economy, the military, foreign affairs. Why would you put someone in that position if it's not for selfish needs? And that is what Jill Biden, Hunter Biden and the rest of the deep state establishment are doing this for. They're diabolically putting Joe Biden for their own selfish purposes. They don't care about democracy. They don't care about anything but themselves. They are the truest monsters on the face of the earth.